Canary Quilts, and welcome back to week 4. Can you believe it's week 4 of the Baby Yoda paper piece quilt along? So if you made it through last week, congratulations. It was pretty tough. There were, especially that section G, there was a lot of tiny little pieces. This week is not going to be as rough. There are some small pieces, but not like last week. We have a lot more sections this week, but they're all going to be pretty small like this. So it should go okay. You know, there's some really little pieces here with a lot of pieces in it, but I'm not too worried, especially if you made it this far. You're in it for the long haul and you're doing great. So I'm ready to go. I've got all my sections, which is going to be sections I, H, I through S. Yeah, we finished with H, so it's I through S. So it's this middle section right here that we're going to be doing. So I pulled out those sections, which I just showed you. I've got my color chart here where I cut a little piece of fabric out and put it next to all the colors. So I wouldn't get confused when I was looking at the colors either. I've got my order of piecing, which is going to be important here in the end on this third line so that we can put it together. And I've got 2 rotary cutters because I found out last time when you're working with really small pieces, you got a lot of fabric to cut, so sometimes you need the bigger rotary cutter. I've got my 2 add-a-quarters for larger seam lines or sewing lines and for smaller sewing lines. Tape to hold some of my fabric on, and my colors, my fabrics. Let me bring it down. So the fabrics we're going to need this time are, we're only going to need 2 background pieces, so I pulled out 2 of those. His robe, which I'm using 2 different colors for his robe, which is number 3. So I've got those 2 fabrics. This is the edge of his robe at the sleeve. That's number 4. So that's right here around his sleeve. Number 4. Number 6 is his sleeve, which is different than his hoodie and his robe. So 6 is along the edges here. So that is his sleeve. This is the only non-batik I have, and it's black and it goes right in here inside his sleeve. This is number 8, and I'm using red for the cup. I really want it to stand out. Number 9 is, we've got some more hoodie pieces here. And then number 10 are his hands, right here. So for that section right here, that's all we're gonna need is those colors. So that's all I pulled out. Oh, and I've got this, which I use to fold my paper against. So it's stiff enough to help me with my paper piecing. So let's get started. I'm gonna work in order, and I'm gonna start with I. So grab section I. So here's section I. You can see, you know, to my hand and to the mat that it's not that big. We're gonna need 9, color 9, which is his hoodie, 6, which is his sleeve, 4, which is the outside of his sleeve, that purplish color, 7, which is the very inside of his sleeve, which is black, and 10, which is part of his hand. And we're gonna start with 1, which is his hand right here. So here's 1, here's 2. So I'm going to get a green piece to fit this, and I'm going to get a black piece to fit that, and then this right here is our sewing line. And since it's on the edge, we'll sew through the seam. So let me get ready for that. So I want to say that over at my machine, I'm set up with a 1.5 stitch length, which isn't very long. That's so you can pull the paper off in the end. And I have an open toe foot so I can see where my sewing line is. So we've got to get, number 1 is his hand, and a pen. I use a pen to help mark out my what I want to cut. So you want to make sure you have coverage around all of this and the seam out here, the seam allowance. So that's where I want to cut my first piece. So I'm going to go to the back. My first piece is right here, and I'm including the seam allowance. My sewing line's right there. And I want to make sure I get my piece on. It's very big. I'm sorry, that's not my sewing line. That is a sewing line in the end. This is my sewing line. So I've marked out where my first piece is here. This is the seam allowance right here. Right here is my sewing line. That's going to be in between the first and second piece. So let's get my piece on here the way I want it, which is like this. And I've got coverage all the way around here. So I'm going to tape that. Oops. I can use that. So there, that piece is taped down. And I think what I want to do is, since my sewing line is in a weird spot over here, I'm just going to take my pattern here and fold it over and cut my 1/4 inch right now, instead of trying to line up a 1/4 inch. So now I just need to cut a small enough black piece to cover this here, or big enough I should say, not small enough, it is a small piece. So let's get my black out. That should be plenty big right there. I know you probably can't see that. I can hardly see it. Okay, so my sewing line's right here. My coverage is right here. That's where I want my coverage. So that will do it. You can always fold it over and test it, but yep, that'll do it. I'm just going to hold it in place. I'm going to turn it over and sew from here through the seam allowance. And then I'm just going to iron it over like that. I don't need this tape anymore because I've sewn it down. Okay, turn it over. So there's 2, which we just did. Here's 3. So let's fold it on the next sewing line. Trim it. And I need another number 7, which is black. So I'm going to need a piece that's going to have coverage through the seam allowance and out here. So that rectangle should do. Again, yes, I can see it. And these cuts don't need to be perfect, they just need to fit. Okay, this is where we want to put it. Go over here. This is our sewing line, this is where we cut. Lay it down, and I can see through it. You should be able to also. Give it a fold, make sure there's coverage. There is, so I'm going to sew that. And again, I go through the seam allowance. I like to have my pieces held together. Fold it over, iron it. So let's go to 4. And this is going to be color 4, which is the purplish. Yeah, because I only had 2 blacks, and now I need 4, which is this color right here. It's going to be the outer, like the fold of his sleeve, like that. So I need this piece. This is number 4. I need coverage out here. I can bring that down. I got too much. So I need coverage here, here, here. So there. And then I need to have coverage down here. So that rectangle. So the next 2 pieces will be 4, so I'll need this again. So we've already cut it, our seam allowance, our piece is right here. So I am going to just lay it there and sew it from here out through the seam allowance. So that's what I mean by going through the seam allowance right there. So I'm going to iron this over. Don't need this tape either because we've done plenty of sewing. Okay, that was 4. So we need 5 and we need the same color. Fold on the next sewing line. So this is where the rest of the block is exactly the same for every piece. Just make sure you get the right color. Make sure you have enough coverage of the piece you're working on. Cut it, line it up, sew it, iron it. So here's my piece. It's out here in the seam allowance too. So let's see, we need to be above here and we need to be over there. So we need a piece like that. Turn it over, set it up on my sewing line, make sure I'm going to have coverage and I can tell that I'm going to. And again, sew from here through the seam allowance. Next, I5, I6. So we need this color, which, what was that? Oh, a sleeve. This is a sleeve. So I need coverage out through the seam allowance and up through that point. So I need to come down there and up there. That is plenty. Plenty, plenty. And I got excited about the color and I didn't make my seam allowance cut here, so let's do that now. I mean, it doesn't matter which way you go. I just usually do my seam allowance and then cut my piece. So I might need my bigger ruler. Nope, that'll work. Cut my seam allowance. I don't think I'll need that small of pieces of that color. Okay, so 6 is right here. There's our sewing line. Lay it down. We've got coverage on our sewing line, and I can tell when I fold it I'm going to have coverage up there to cover the section. Now I'm going to sew it. Number 7 is right here. It's the same color. I'm going to do my seam allowance. Cut it. Grab my fabric, get a piece that will cover it, and I'm still on 6, which is the rolled up sleeve. And this section looks like it's going to work perfect. So if I cut right along there, I'll have enough. I should have enough. So that's the last time. No, we're going to need another 6. 8 is a 6. Yep. So right here is my sewing line. Line that up and sew it. Go to number 8. Same color. Go to the sewing line. I think you're getting the gist of it, especially if you've made it this far. I think you've gotten the gist of it. So this is the same color, number 6. And this is our piece right here. That should give us plenty of coverage. Turn it over. Sewing line is right here. And I want to do it like that. And then sew it. Number 9, we only got 2 more pieces. And that is the number 9 color, which is his hoodie. That's that black color. Fold on the next sewing line. Trim your seam allowance. I know, it sounded like a broken record. I am a broken record. But once you master this, it's not too hard. Probably the hardest part is the first pieces, and then trying to get your pieces cut so you have coverage. It's art, baby, it's art. So I want coverage around that corner. So I'm just going to cut that right off. Yep, plenty of coverage. I'm going to straighten that side up, because that's the side I used. There we go. So I need to put it over the sewing line and the seam allowance right here. And sew it. Iron it over. Last piece for eye. last piece of the first section. Yep, that's long enough. And that is another 9, so that's this color. It's going to be a pretty big piece. This piece needs to be ironed before I use it. So... let's see. It's hard to see on this black, but it's right here to right here to right there. I'm going to iron this. So we are done with that color and this section when we get done here. Let's just see how I did. Ooh, gonna be close, but I think I can do it. So we'll turn it over and line it up with that sewing line and sew. So this was the last piece and it went from end to end, so I went through both sewing or seam lines and down the sewing line. So let's see, let's fold it up and see. Oh yeah, I got coverage. Yep, iron that baby. We can trim this piece. So trim on the dotted line. Once you're done trimming, stand up, stretch your shoulders out, roll your shoulders back, give those neck muscles a break from looking down. It's a good thing to do after each piece so that you don't get any knots in your neck, because I do. I have those knots from all the sewing and it sucks, so I don't want you to have it. There we go, there's section I. Hoodie, sleeve, folded out sleeve, inner sleeve, and his hand. So all the pieces are going to be just like that. They're not that big. They're probably not even, they're probably going to all be very similar to that. That's what it looks like. Just kind of small pieces. These are going to be really small pieces, so if you saved any scraps, you could probably use them here. So I'm going to stretch. I'm going to roll my shoulders back, and I'm going to get ready to do the next section, which is H-I-J, which is right in front of me. So there's J. So there's J all finished. I did have an issue. I don't know what happened. It's almost like I cut on my sewing line instead of cutting the seam allowance, so I had to start over. But other than that, it really was a pretty straightforward block. Just make sure you go through all your seam allowances here. Helps hold your pieces together. And then we'll get this one trimmed up. And trim the notches. There. Now we have I and J. So I is going to sit like this. And J, is that correct? Looks like it sits like that. So that's his hand. Yeah, that's how it looks like it goes. Oh, I see. I'm not taking into account the seam allowances. So, yeah, I'm gonna have to sew something else onto this before I sew it onto this. So, but that's basically how it goes. That's how it's gonna look. So HIJK is next. Where are my pieces? They're over here. So K is right here, and that's not a very big piece. So I'm gonna put this piece together. I'll come back and when I'm trimming it and let you know if there's anything I need to tell you about it. Okay, so K was really straightforward. Just 2 colors and 4 pieces. So I'm just gonna trim it up on the dotted line, not the solid line, the dotted line. And we can go on to the next piece. HIJKL can be our next piece. And when I get this trimmed up, I'll pull it out. But yeah, this piece was just, didn't take me very long. Nothing special about it. So there we go. I think it goes like right here. Yeah. So you can kind of see his arm is taking shape here. So let's get L. L, here it is. Oh, yeah, L's 3 pieces. 2 good sized pieces and a small piece. So, yeah, I'll probably be back in a few minutes trimming this one up. Okay, L took me, probably took me 5 minutes. Did not take me very long. It's the cup and his robe in this piece. So, not too much. Just a big old piece of red for the cup. I'm trimming on the dash line. And I'm cutting my notches out. And let's see, where does L go? So L goes below J. So there's I. There's J. And K. And L. So yeah, you can see his arm starting to take shape in the cup. HIJKL, M. So M and N and O look real easy here. So I'm gonna get started on those. I'll come back, let you know if I have any issues with those. Probably won't. I do want to mention here on M that when I have like a weird angle as my second piece, I usually put my first piece down like a big rectangle, and then I'm just going to fold it over and trim my first piece before I lay my second piece down. A lot of times you can lay it down, overlap it 1/4 inch and it's good, but on weird angles like this, I will lay my piece on, trim it, and then put my next piece on. So I've got this weird beginning here where I've got this line that's diagonal, and if I take my piece, which does cover it if you do this, turn it over, but I can't lay it like this because I can't get the coverage. Because I want my coverage to be like this. So, I'm going to make sure I have coverage. I have coverage down here on this edge. I have coverage on this edge, on that edge, and it needs to just come up a tad, and coverage over the seam allowance. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to fold this over at that seam line. Yeah, and now I've got to fold. And I'm going to cut it there, so I have this piece here that will fold, but I need to add 1/4 of an inch. So I'm going to put my 1/4 inch, and I'm lining up the ridge here on my 1/4 inch so I can add it on. Let's see how this works. So now I've got a piece that looks like this. And there, so I got room to move. Got coverage for this corner. Let's see how I did. All right, that's gonna work. So that's a good way to do that, is kind of just line it up like that and then fold it, mark it, and add 1/4 inch to your fold. Okay, let's sew this and really see how I did. And I have coverage. So yeah, there you go. That's another good way to do like a weird angle like that. And it's sometimes you have those weird angles. We did in the first ones, I guess, but for the most part it's fairly straightforward. But I might have, maybe people have been doing it like that forever, but I just discovered it. Yeah, it's just about being creative and how you get your pieces in there. Sometimes you have to just stop and fold and work and move and fold and work and move until you've got it figured out. So I've never done it that way, but it seemed to work for me. So this one's straightforward. And the next one looks like it will be too. So I'll be back. Okay, so the only issue with M was this first sewing line. And if you go back and watch, I showed you how I cut a rectangle, but then folded this section over. So I had a fold there, and then I added 1/4 of an inch and cut it, so that when I laid it down, that's how the seam would fold. It would fold up towards this piece. Instead of folding this way, it'd fold up. So that seemed to work out well. I'll have to do that again. I'm sure I'll run into those sections again. So trim on the dotted line. So how is everybody today? I'm okay. We moved out of our house. We moved up here recently. In our other house we just sold and had to move out, and it was hard work. And then I wake up to a little kitty this morning. My little kitty wasn't feeling very good. So I'm keeping an eye on him. He seems to be doing a little better. I don't know if he got into something overnight or what, but he's my little baby. I don't want him to be sick. Okay, there we go. So this is L, or M. I like to put my pieces together just because it gives me a progress report. I need that progress report to feel like I'm getting something done. L is this way, and M is right here. Yeah, you can see his sleeve kind of coming around here. Actually, it's going to be like that. Wait. No, sorry. It's like this. Come on, Carrie. Yeah. Yep. There we go. Look at, you can see his sleeve forming and his hands going over to the cup. Yep, I need progress reports. Make me feel like I'm doing something. So, time to stretch. Stand up and give your shoulders a good stretch. So N is next, super easy. 2 pieces, but make sure you look at it because it is piece fabric 3 and fabric 6. So I'll probably be back in about 2 minutes. So exactly 2 minutes. Get this trimmed up on the dash line. And move on to piece O. Don't forget to cut your notches. Yep, and I am a broken record, but it's important. Notch, notch, notch. This is so small, I think I'll wait till O to do a progress report. So, where is O? Oh my goodness, O is a big piece, but with only 3 pieces in it, so yeah. That's this piece right here. Okay, this might take me probably 5 minutes just because the pieces are bigger, but maybe not. So O would have been a lot easier for me if I would have gone 1, 2, 3, but for some reason I thought this was 1. And I started here, put on 2, and then when I tried to put on 3, it all fell apart, and so I had to rip it apart. Luckily, it wasn't much of a rip out, but still. I just had doofus brain at the moment. So anyway, you should have an easier time. I'm sure you don't get doofus brain. So this will be a nice big piece to throw in there to do a check. A progress check-in. I might need that piece. Cut the notches, cut the notches, cut the notches, cut the notches. Yep, see, it's kind of coming apart. I need to tape that back together. It's all great till you make a mistake. But that's what tape's for. And mistakes are just learning. It's just a learning experience. Okay, let's do our progress check-in. Okay, we got the wrong sheet. There we go. We got I. We got J. K. L. Let's make sure I get M correct. M. N. And O. And they'll match up when all these seam allowances squish together. But yeah, there we go. There's his cup starting to form. And his sleeve and his robe. So we have Q, R, O, P, Q, R, and S left. All right, let's get to it. What did we do? We did O. So O, L, M, N, O, P. We're on P. Let's find our P piece. Where's our P piece? Oh my Lord. That is a tiny little pea piece. It's just a little pea. That's a little pea. And we need 8, which is the cup, and we need 10, which is his hands. So we start in the middle with 10, and then P2's in the corner, then P3's this tiny little piece, and then P4's that piece. So maybe I'll keep this running, see how I do, and you can watch me. Okay, let's cut it. Let's trim it on that dotted line. This is so small, we'll wait to do another progress report. Dotted line. I remember once my mom was working on a paper piece with me and she cut it on that solid line and she regretted it. So, no regrets here. Cut on that dashed line. So there you go, that tiny little piece right there. So that was P. Where's Q? Q's still pretty small, got a lot of pieces, so. But since we just did that small piece and you saw how we did it, it'll be exactly the same way. So this is all the red for me, the cup and his fingers. Okay, nothing special about Q. There were a lot of little pieces, but other than that, nothing really special. Just pay attention to what color you need for each one. I mean, you can go along and be like doing several reds and then want to put a red in the next one. It's not a red, it's a green. So that's about the only tip. I can do that. I can start thinking about things. Like I said, my kitty's not feeling well, so I'm thinking about that, and I'll just start sticking my colors I think should go in. You just gotta watch your legend there. So, broken record time. Cut on the dotted line. And another small piece. I think we'll wait to do a check-in on the progress report. I guess this piece might have taken me 7-8 minutes. It wasn't too long. So there's that little piece. That is Q. We need R. And R might have fallen on the floor. It did. R is 3 pieces, a 4 and 2 6s. So we're pros at this now. So I'll see you on the other side. Okay, there's R. Nothing special about this one. Took me maybe 3 minutes. So I'm cutting on the dotted line. Again, a tiny piece. We'll do a check-in. I think, yeah, S is our last section, which is next. And so we'll have a full check-in then. Start putting those pieces together. Cut those notches. We need them later. Okay, so S. Pretty big piece. Lots of colors. We'll need background here. So start here and start moving. S1, S2, S3, S4, S5, S6. So it's kind of looks like it's going back and forth. Yep, so just need to pay attention to your numbers and your colors. Okay, here's the last piece in this section. This for today. This is S. So let's get it trimmed. And then I'm going to take a break, stretch my neck, feed my cat. He's walking around here staring at me. He needs to be fed. He's my senior baby. He's not the one that's not feeling good today. It's my baby that's not feeling good. So I told him as soon as I was done with this, I was gonna go get him a bowl of food. Plus it gives me a chance to rest my neck, cut your notches, and then we'll come back and we will put our section all together. There it is. That's his sleeve, and like his little arm right there. Okay, you go take a break too, and we'll come back. Okay, I got all my pieces out here. I've cleaned up my area so I don't have anything in the way, because all we're going to be doing is putting these pieces together. I've got my sections out and I've got my order of piecing sheet up. So let's lay this out like it should be. So we need I, which is this piece. There's I, J, L, P, this little one, okay, it goes like that, looks like. R, which is, yep, that's R. Looks like it goes like that. Q, goes like that. O, wait, this is, yeah, this is O. Got S over here. And then there's O. K, M, and N. Sure doesn't look like it's gonna fit, but it should fit together if we do the order of piecing correctly. So order of piecing is K and L. K and L. And look at that, I didn't cut a notch. I told you the whole time to cut notches and I didn't even cut a notch. So we got L. We got K. So it's going to go together on this side. So we are going to line it up just like that. See, it fits perfect. This corner fits over here, and the notch is over there to run up against, and then the notch over here. So, get those together. Well, I didn't get clips out either. So, there's my clips. Again, let's get it lined up. And K and L, sew along this solid line. This solid line right here. So there's my two, K and L sewn together, and I'm going to iron towards K. So that fits right in there. Next is L to J. So we're going to take what we did here, K and L, and add J to it. So this is J. So this should fit from that edge to that edge, and it does. So we'll clip that and sew on the solid line. Okay, there's J added on, and then I ironed it towards J. So that goes like that. So now we have I goes on to J. So this I goes on to J right there. Oh, I didn't get a little notch, but... Okay, line up I to the section we just sewed, and it fits perfect. And look at there, I didn't get another notch, but it doesn't look like it matters actually, but I should have cut it. I told you guys to do it. Okay, sew down the solid line. Okay, there is I sewn onto that section. And I ironed it towards I. I seem to be ironing towards the section I just sewed on. That goes right there. And next is M, which is here. And we'll put that on there. Perfect fit. Sew on the solid line. So there's the section I just did. I ironed it towards M, and now we do N. And again, look at that perfect fit. Line it up, sew on. There is N, iron towards, and it's iron towards N. So now we do O, which is right here. And that fits perfect. Yep. So put a couple clips in that and get that sewn on. Okay, peeps. Let's learn from Carrie's mistake time. So this huge piece of material right here was just laying down. I just ironed it over, laid it down, and when I started sewing, the material scooched over and I ended up just sewing the paper. So I had to rip it out. I pulled the material over where it should be. I did lose that seam of paper, but that's fine. So now that the fabric is where it should be, I'm going to pin it down so it doesn't go anywhere. But yeah, that I should have taped it or watched it. But yeah, because this was just ironed this way, it wasn't attached down here in any way, just laying there, it scooched on me. So I'm going to start back up right here on my seam, and I'm going to follow the edge of the paper. So learn from Carrie's mistake. Okay, I got that dastardly O put on. And because you can see it ripped, but I need these seam allowances here. I lined it back up, tucked it in there, and I've got it taped in place for now. So now that we have O, P, Q, R, S. Oh, we do PQRS separately, and then we add this to it. So we've done this, and now we do PQRS, and then we add this whole section to PQRS. So I'm going to set this aside. So we do P, which is that tiny, tiny little piece. And Q, which goes like that. So these pieces are going to go together, P and Q. I don't even think I can pin those. I'm just going to sew those on the solid line. And iron towards P. So that's P and Q. Now R gets added to it. And R goes right there. So we're lining it up with these inside sections of the notches. And then we're going to sew on that solid line. And iron towards R. So P, Q, R, and then S, right there. Line up the edges, just like that. Sew on the solid line. Like that. So let's see. I'm gonna iron towards PQR. That seems like how it naturally wants to fall. So I ironed it this way. So now we add nope, I got it. Let's see. Goes like that. And then this should line up right here. Looks like it does. Okay. So line that up. Start over here. couple more, just for good measure. Because there's a lot of seams we're going over top of here. So we'll sew down this line and see how it looks. There it is, look at that. His little cup in his hands. All right, so I ironed towards the bigger piece right here. And so I got out his face that we did last week, and even though it says to do T and U and then add this, we can add it because it's going here on top of this entire section we just did, and T and U are down here. So next time we'll do T and U, and then we'll add T, and then we'll add U, and then V and W, so we'll have all the rest of it next time. So I'm gonna grab your face and line it up like this, right sides together. Sorry about that. And we'll sew this together. Let's make some progress. I want to see what it's gonna look like. I'm excited. Okay, there we go. There it is. I haven't ironed it yet. I think I want to iron this way because this is the section with all those tiny little pieces in it. So I think what I want to do is iron this way. Even without ears, he's adorable. Look at him, he's so cute. So we can't put this piece on yet, but it's gonna go right there. Oh, look at that, it's so cute. Little baby Yoda. Okay, pat yourself on the back. That's hard. We did it. We're on the home stretch next week. We will have this quilt top put together next week. So, get your backs all limbered out. Take a break. Show off to your friends what you're doing. And then we'll come back and do these 4 sections next week. And then we'll sew the whole thing together. Exciting, exciting. So thank you very much for watching this video. If you have any questions, let me know. If you're doing this, leave pictures on my Facebook page or just let me know in the comments below. So we'll see you next week.